with very special guests today. Dr. Professor Merab Chukhua, he will be joining us from Tbilisi. Mr. Elbruz Aksoy, he's a Ph.D. candidate in Ghent University. And Dr. Şuay Açıkalın, she is a member of the Diplomacy Foundation already. And she is specialized on disinformation and historical memory. So I'm Didem Bilge. I am a PhD candidate in political science in İstanbul Bilgi University. And I'm also have been an activist since I'm 11 years old on the issues of the North Caucasus, and I'm specialized on diaspora. Therefore, I would like to start with a sentence. When we say genocide, I would like to start with a very intimidating sentence regarding to today's atmosphere, which is, we now all know how a genocide looks like. We are watching every day through our social media, through the news outlets and several information channels. Right now, people in Gaza are not fighting with guns or any other things that people use in wars. Instead, they are using proxy guns, which are their cameras. They are telling stories to us. They are making us witness right from the field about how sadly a genocide looks like. So this generation is we are witnessing a genocide technically. But when we go back from 160 years ago, when we come up to our topic, if we look back from 160 years before, and when we look to the results, the outcomes of the population movements, we see a pattern here, which is maybe even more catastrophic than what's going on today, which is what happened in the North Caucasus. Today, we're identifying and naming it as the Circassian genocide because there are some serious facts about it. Unfortunately, the witnesses of those events happened, those tragedies happened back then, are very limited. Therefore, we have Professor Merab Chukhua from Tbilisi State University, because he is in the heart of the main witnessing. He is from the heart of the main witnessing documents, which is the Russian military archive documents were in the Tbilisi. He made an extensive research in those documents, and he has books about it. He has projects about it. So, Professor Merab, can you unmute? We can't hear you. We're not able to. Okay,
yes.
Right over here. Perfect.
Hello to everyone. I am happy to be with you, with Circassians, and this is, of course, the great day today, but we see how is the genocide in the world going on in Ukraine and other places. And of course, we must have a knowledge about genocide. What is the genocide on Caucasus and how it was developing last century and what has happened. It was one of the catastrophic day, not only for Circassians, but for all mankind, I think. So thank you inviting me and being with you, dear Didem, dear guests.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, of course.
Perfect. So you've been in the archives. What you have seen over there, that because these military personnel, they were there were notes, there are reports regarding to what happened 160 years ago back in the Circassia, North Caucasus. What did you see in those documents? And do you think that we can call what happened over there as a genocide?
First of all, we must know and repeat what is the genocide generally. Genocide, it means killing people for ethnic or religion reasons. And if you lose around 20 or more persons of this community or this nation, it means it is a real genocide against this ethnic group or against this social group or against this committee. So in Circassian case, what I had researched in Georgian archives were a huge document we have, and by the way, many of them are not published, but I saw these documents, these reports in original. And what they say, what is my conclusion? My conclusion is the trust and true things about Circassians. It was a real genocide when more than 50% of Circassian population was killed.
15 or 50?
50.
Half of the population was killed.
Yes, it was half of this population. And 40% of Circassians were exiled for their homeland. And only 10% was able to live in Circassia. But Circassia, that time, was without Circassians. Circassian territories, mainly it was the coast of Black Sea, it was without Circassian population. And now you see, we have 3 Circassian republics in Russian Empire. They are Adiga, Arasha Circassia, and Kabarda also, Bulgaria, Kabarda, Bulgaria. No of these republics have not the line with or borders with Black Sea. What is Black Sea for Circassians? This is a coast of the sea where Circassian people was born as free people who created a state, Circassian state, and it was the territory of Circassian homeland, and it was the territory of Circassian culture and Circassian language diversity. What we see now, we see Circassia without Circassians, and the picture, what was represented 160 years ago, is now repeated. Why? Circassian diaspora, it's a diaspora around 5 million, more than 5 million Circassians. But in Circassia, in homeland, only 10%, which was that time, it is now also represented. Yes. All Circassians today are around 8 million people. This is one of the biggest Caucasian people in the world. Georgians also are around 7 million people. in diaspora, in Turkey, in other countries, in Europe, in United States, and of course in Russian Empire. But what is the crucial thing? What is the terrible thing for Circassians? We know genocide in Caucasus, genocide of Dagestanians, genocide of Ingushians, genocide of Chechenians.
I'm sorry, you were the ambassador of Georgia during Johar Dudaev's time at Chechnya. So
yes, of course.
You named your son as Johar, right? This is what we know about you. I would like
yes, he was fourth Georgian named by Johar in Georgia, and it is my son's official name.
Mm-hmm.
I dedicate it to my friend, my biggest friend of my life, Johar Dudaev, all my life. And today, being here, I am thinking about Circassians and Chechenians, because these two nations were, first of all, who terribly was genocide. But Circassian genocide is not similar to Chechenian genocide. Why? Unicality, Circassian genocide, means that this is one people, only one people in the world who after genocide period lose their homeland. Chechenians losing around 300,000 population of Chechnya, they did not lose their homeland. But Circassians now live without homeland. And the second thing what I want to be also mentioned is genocide is a phenomenon for Circassian people, because this is a part of Circassian identity.
Yes.
And you know, dear Didem, because you are specialist of Circassian nations history, and almost it means your work about Circassian diaspora. And you have world information that Circassians, only 10% of Circassians are represented in their homeland now. And all documents, what I has revised, says it was genocide when 15% of population was killed and the 40% were exiled from their homeland. This is a real history. This is a real picture. And I am proud because my conclusion was that the thing by which Georgia recognized 13 years ago in 2011 Circassian genocide by Georgian parliament was officially recognized, first time in the world.
Yes.
Bless Circassia. I would like to see Circassians rebirthed in their homeland and be with their state, language, culture, and freedom.
Thank you, Merab. My question was about the archive documents. So can you just summarize what you have seen over there? A little summary, because we have very special guests.
I can tell you about one typical moment.
Mm-hmm.
In Ubichian case.
In Wubuch case.
Yes, in Uber case, when all population was disturbed, and many Ubichians was killed, and more than were exiled, one man was elite, and he was living.
Alive. He was alive. One man was
alive. Yes. and he was living on the high part in cave. One person was alive, lived and was living there. And what we see in this document, the expedition of Russian killers are going and they are cleansing everything. By the way, it was also ethnic cleansing. And this process, they are finding this one person.
Last Wubach, they are behind.
Yes, who lived there, only one, alone people, alone person. They are going there, taking these people and killing there.
And today,
why we know everything they did? What is interesting? Because they are doing and representing everything, writing everything. This is reports. Why they need this report? Because after this, they have very good outcome for Russians who is sitting on the head of this empire. And then when the West community was against these events, they did not publish these materials. And we have 12 volumes of Circassian genocide in Georgia, but 13th is not published because it's more terrible things there described. But I saw everything. I saw how everything was developing, and I know it was genocide. It was a real genocide of Circassian people made by Russian killers, terrorists. And today, Russians are going on doing such kind of things, not only in Circassia. The Circassian genocide is going on, dear colleagues. Why? Circassians are not able to return to their homeland until nowadays. This is one point. The second one, Circassian language is not a language of official language of Circassian republics. In schools, they are against this language. They are against Circassian culture. And they are against everything, against Circassian Day of Genocide. How do you think? Why Circassians are not able to show their tragedy tomorrow in Circassia, in Nalchik, in Maiko, in Cherkess? They are not able. They must say it was not genocide. It was a word, Circassian Russian word, and they don't know what was the reason of this word.
Merab, your presence was very valuable for us because we know that in Tbilisi there are protests going on right now, and you made time for us and you joined us. I would like to add, we will be having its second session, but I know about your time. If that allows, we would be honored if you stay with us for the next session. Otherwise, I would like to inform that because of what's going on over there, you may need to leave. So thank you very much for joining today's panel.
Dear Didem, this is my flag also.
I know, yeah, I have seen, yes.
I have.
You dedicated your life.
I was, and I am just now with this flag, and I pray in Georgia, I will fight for Circassian project, and Georgia must be country who will protect everything what we have Circassian, not only in Georgia, on Caucasus, because we must, because Georgia is a related, genetically related country, state, and people with Circassians. We know everything about Circassia, and we will fight for free Circassia, because Circassians, by God, were born as free people. Freedom to Circassia. It is my desire. I am sure it will be free Circassia on Caucasus. Thank you.
So much. Thank you. So this was very but from the heart of the Professor Merab Chukhua from Tbilisi State University, and he was the head of also the Circassian Culture Center stated in Tbilisi, and he was from the beginning until the process was in every stage of the recognition of the Circassian genocide by the Georgian parliament. So we have talked about witnessing to a genocide that is not seen. The other element, the most important element that lives among the people throughout the generations are the stories, historical stories being told. And that is like legends, that is like something to be carried from generation to generation. So Elbruz Aksoy from Ghent University, Ph.D. candidate from Ghent University, he is also a historian, and he has a very, for me, groundbreaking books regarding to the Circassian stories being told. He's also a story collector, right? Can I call you like that? Elbruz. Elbruz, your microphone is off.
Now?
Yes.
Okay.
Can you tell us about these stories that is living among the diaspora members, and that are the actually unseen silence witnesses, silence instruments of holding us witnessing to that genocide?
Yeah. Thank you so much for giving us this opportunity to talk about genocide, Circassian genocide, after 160 years. Yes, you can call me as a story collector or story hunter.
Yes.
When I was in the university in 1996, I started this journey by mistake. I was not sure what I was doing at that time, actually, but we had a lecture, Introduction to Humanities, and there, thanks God to my professor, she opened me a new case to look after our issue, and she was talking about oral history and talking about gathering narratives. She asked me to prepare a paper without using any book or any archival documents. She said, we don't need this. They're already written in there. I want to know what is told by Circassians generation to another. What is in their memories? And she told me, Elbruz, go and please bring us untold stories. But it was 1996, and Turkey was passing in some hard political times, and we were still afraid of talking about Circassian. Even the word was, we were not able to talk that freely like we are talking today, fortunately. But my journey started in 1996. Until now, I am running after the Circassian memory from one country to another, from one town to another. Sometimes I am traveling very far places just to meet one person, because I believe that memory is now the biggest treasure we left after 160 years. In today's speech, I would like to talk about the terminology of the genocide within 160 years. After 1864, exile, 1.2 million up to 1.5 million, there are some numbers, Circassians became the Ottoman citizens. And from that period till the end of the empire, I mean, during the Ottoman period, they called this issue as hijra, the Islamic word hijra. They never mentioned migration, but they prefer to call this as hijra. So what is hijra? Hijra, we can't call it as a migration. Hijra is something much more painful than a migration. Maybe the closest explanation could be forced migration, but it was correct that time, because I'm talking about the time of the end of 19th century or the beginning of 20th century, which the term of the genocide was not discovered yet. So the Ottoman narratives, Ottoman newspapers, archives, even the novels written at that time, they called our painful past historical event as hijra. And they were calling us with the correct term as a nation of Cherkess. So we were accepted by this hijra and Cherkess. But when the Ottoman Empire collapsed and the Turkish Republic established in 1923, we've realized that the terminology has been changing to migration and to Caucasus, which means Caucasus. Unfortunately, Caucasus is a term for a geography. We can't call this to underline one ethnic group, but the Republican authors or professors or the journalists, they prefer to call us Caucasus instead of being Cherkess. This terminology, sorry?
Yeah, please continue. Please.
Yeah, the terminology already changed in the first period of the Turkish Republic. Then we realized that the term genocide invented after the Second World War, and the Western Academy was talking about the Jewish Holocaust, which should be genocide, and then the Armenians continued, and it continued all around the world. But we were living in Turkey.
I'm sorry. Dr. Açıkalın will right from there she will be speaking. So what about stories?
I will immediately continue. Okay,
yeah.
The terminology started already, but we, the Circassians living in Turkey, especially in Turkey, we will keep using Kafkas and Göç, Caucasus and migration. What happened? During the time of 2000, when internet entered our life, we were able to connect with the real Circassian diaspora who lives in the United States, England, Germany, Jordan, and we realized that the diaspora is using another term instead of a migration or Kafkas, but genocide was already in the usage, and the term Cherkess. So starting from 2000, the discussions inside the Turkish diaspora already got involved these terminological problems. We were not able to call us this genocide and Cherkess. But thanks God, 2006, this was the breaking point of our history when Russia declared that Sochi Winter Olympics could be there, happen in the heart of the Circassian capital, which the Circassian dependency declared, and the last battle done there in the middle of the Sochi, the Circassians started to think about their painful but historical past. So from the declaration of Sochi as a Winter Olympic place 2006 until now, we, the Turkish Circassians, called this painful past as Circassian genocide, as how it should be.
Elbruz, I'm sorry to interrupt again. You are a member of the diaspora in one sense, and when you are in academy, you as a member of the diaspora, you experience two things. You are in and out. You can experience what's inside, and you can go out and look from outside, because there are multi-identities, and being a member of diaspora is another level that you try to understand why I am like this. Mm-hmm. So when we speak from your academic identity, academic's identity as an academician, how would you be evaluating those stories? What those stories are telling, rather than being from inside? When you look from outside, how would you be evaluating them?
Yeah, I'm focusing on remembering Circassian genocide. But inside this topic, there is another topic, which was why we don't want to remember. This is another case. Why we would like to delete this remembering. Why we just totally delete this from our memory. Why? This is also another fact, and it takes us back to the genocide, the painful past. The genocide survivals had some points of confrontation for this painful events. They refused this. They just would like to stay far away from this horrible remembering of massacres, mass killings, ethnic cleansings, and invasions. So they decided not to talk about it, just to forget about it. And they established their village, they got married, divorced, get kids, and wars. They just want to move from this painful past. But now in the academia, not remembering is also a big fact of remembering. That's why when I first get involved with the professors in Ghent, when I was giving a speech, they said, wow, not remembering is what we are looking for, because there is a huge, horrible events that the diaspora, majority of diaspora would like to delete it from their memory. So that's why my point of study right now, focusing on why we would like to delete this painful past, why we want to stay far from this genocides, invasions, mass killings, why we need something new to refresh our memory. This is what I am mostly focusing on, and trying to gather untold stories related to the genocides and mass killings happened before 1864.
Okay. So thank you, Elbruz. Dr. Şuay Açıkalın, welcome. So you are a member of Diplomacy Foundation already. Thank you for holding this organization. As a moderator, I would like to thank to you. And can you be telling us about, first of all, we would like to know more about you. We would be happy if you introduce yourself to us. And you are on, Elbruz Aksoy was on the memory side, but you are on the reproduction process of the memory. So memory, there is a historical oral memory, there's a narrative, but this narrative is on purpose, can be reproduced in a way that will end up to tell the story in a totally different way. So disinformation, on disinformation purpose, this is done. So you will be telling us about how this is done in the Circassian case. You are studying about this, and how this false memory can be created in terms of that kind of a historical process for the diaspora. Thank you.
Thank you, Didem, and all other guests. Once more, welcome to our foundation. I am Associate Fellow in the Diplomacy Foundation, but also Associate Professor in Ankara Hacı Bayram Veli University. Today, regarding our panel, I would like to touch upon how the contemporary times, especially we witnessed the disinformation that created by Russia, and also time to time mobilized by the Western countries as a counter-argument against the Circassian genocide. In the beginning of my speech, I have to say that I am also a Circassian woman from the Circassian family. So I basically grew up in a in the family that with the story of the Sheikh Shamil and other, the national hero of the Circassian. So as both speakers before me, both Merab and Elbruz, directly touched upon the historical part and how to time interpret in the archives. And especially based on their background and the speech, I would like to focus on a very interesting point on the why the Circassian genocide while we are talking the 116-year anniversary this year, but why still ignored by some countries or some societies? The reason behind that, for a long time, actually, the Russia keep the historical revisionist policies. What I mean is that during the Russian policies, especially after the Russian Revolution and later the upcoming years in the Soviet time as well, Russia and the Russian sources mostly keep itself as the intentional creation of the reproduction of some information related with the Circassian and also related with the Circassian genocide in a other way of the reading or creating memories. And this historical revisionism that followed by the Russia, unfortunately, accumulated knowledge, although there are some archives and some Circassian autobiographies mentioned about the Circassian genocide, which is unfortunately, which is not enough today seeing. These Russian policies achieved a point that for a long years, and unfortunately, not only the Circassian part of the Circassian diaspora and their younger generation, but also some other countries, unfortunately, seems to be a little bit irrelevant or ignorant towards the Circassian pain and the Circassian genocide. Interestingly, in this point, I would like to share some data. Until the annexation of Crimea in 2014, Western countries and the Western public seems to be a little bit unwillingness to talk about the Circassian genocide and its anniversary. However, when it comes to the Crimean annexation in the 2014, European countries and European public seems to be more willingness to talk about what really happened 1,000 years ago in the Black Sea. So in this respect, I found it still somehow a little bit, especially the Russian-Ukrainian war, European attitude tried to be a little bit use or manipulate the realities of what the Circassians really witnessed in that time as a new political tool against Russia to claim that, especially to focus on the first modern European genocide in 1860s. And interestingly, 2 years ago on the May, at the same anniversary time, in the May 2022, the European conservatives and the reformist groups in the EU Parliament organized a very interesting panel titled "Their Only Crime Was Not Being Russian, the Circassian Genocide in the European Parliament." And this panel was attracted too much attention in the European academia and also European public for a long time. And in this panel, most of the European conservative member of the parliament claimed that it was the first modern genocide in Europe. This is the one hand right now what we seen, especially after the Russian-Ukrainian war. But on the other hand, there is a still somehow blindness time to time regarding the realities of the Circassian genocide, what we saw in the archives. And there is also double-sided attitude of the Western countries, especially when it comes to the comparing the so-called Armenian genocide and the Circassian genocide. What I am saying is that mostly through the years, the Western public and most of the countries helping the Armenians false claims regarding the so-called Armenian genocide, while they were so blind against the Circassian genocide, what really happened in the reality compared to the Armenian claims. And right now, this unbalanced attitude still continued, but at least the Europeans started to talk about what really happened in the Black Sea in the 1960s. Last thing I would like to mention that I think most of the people who focus on the Circassian history and the Circassian culture read the famous book written by the Italian historian, which is the Oliver Blow. and on the Let Our Fame Be Great, and it's also translated to Turkish.
Oliver is a friend, and he is especially. I'm sorry. There's a book in Italian, and Oliver. It's another one. Oliver is from Scotland, so he was also Merab. He was also in Tbilisi during this Circassian genocide. Recognition days. He was closely following, so it's so nice to have his name here and hear from your side about his comments.
Thank you, Didem. In his book, he pointed out very important reality regarding with the Circassian diaspora and why we need to work on to talk and write on more the realities on the Circassian genocide because of the culture of the Circassian, at least as I experienced in my family and my near peers regarding with the Circassian approach. Unfortunately, there is a lack of still written documents in like a personal autobiographies or like family biographies that mentioned on the Circassian genocide and later generation of these, how the Circassian diaspora experienced being as a diaspora outside of their region. I think there is a still problem to have that kind of personal knowledge accumulation in this level, which probably will support the archive realities on these the Circassian genocide. So in this respect, I still believe that there should be more work done, should focus on the how the Circassian genocide by done, how it directly reflect to North Caucasus relations today after a very long time, almost a century later, because it's still valid while the Circassian diaspora has been a good network in the other parts of the world. So in my last words, I would like to say I'm really happy to be part of that kind of panel that moderated by you, Didem, and to talk about more both historical realities and the today realities, and how the world see this the Circassian genocide and what we should do together to learn or to teach more.
Not to have more genocides to be lived in the future. That is something to remember. So I would like to give the ground to for final words. Dr. Merab, would you be joining us with your final words? Your microphone is off. Merab, we can't hear you. Your microphone is off. Thank you. Now it's open.
Thank you again, dear Didem. I am happy to be here when you are moderating this very important conference. We must know all time I am ready for Circassia and to be with the Circassian community.
So North Caucasus spirit rising?
I want, in addition, I want to say one thing. Why is recognizing Circassian genocide? What is the importance of this process? Mm-hmm. It's very important because having Circassian genocide real history, we see where Circassian tribes, Circassian peoples were lived in Circassia. Because the territory of Circassian genocide and Circassian ethnic cleansing is the territory of Circassians only. It is very important. We know genocide was in Sochi, in Dagamız, in Adler, in Novorossiysk, in many places, in Anapa. But now Circassian population is not there represented. And only Circassian genocide and only Circassian toponyms and onomastics say this is a land of Circassian nation, where Circassia was born with Circassian culture, with Circassian language, and with Circassian nation. And we must explain to everyone the trust of Circassian genocide.
Thank you, Merab, from Tbilisi State University, all the way from Georgia. You were with us today. So, Elbruz Aksoy, again from Ghent University, what would you be telling us as final words? Your microphone is off.
First of all, I would like to thank Professor Merab, because he also invited me to work on the Russian archives in Tbilisi. I had a chance to touch these historical documents. This was so emotional, first of all. I mean, after 2 years ago, I was there. I studied like 2 weeks. And, you know, I was coming from the ground. I had a lot of research and gathered all the narratives. In everywhere, even in Jordan, in Syria, in Egypt, in Turkey, everyone was talking about exile to Siberia as a war prisoner. Exile to Siberia. Siberia was a horrible memory for us, a ground for a horrible memory. But I was looking for documents, you know. Okay, the ground, you had so many information, so many narratives all around, but I was looking just one paper. And thanks to Merab's friend, professor, she gave me one document. She showed me one document. It was talking about 1863, just 1 year before the Circassian exile. The paper mentioned that almost 10,000 Circassians were exiled to Siberia as a war prisoner. What is a war prisoner? As a slave. So thanks God, even for one paper, 2 weeks, we worked hard, but thank you so much. Now, what we should do, yes, as Dr. Şuay mentioned, we are late to talk about the Circassian genocide. There were some political conditions, whatever, but now things change so fast. Nowadays, we've seen what's going in Ukraine and what's going in Gaza and Western Sharia as a type, as an example of a genocide. And now we Circassians, we are now sure what we have witnessed 160 years ago was a pure genocide. Now, from now on, we as Circassians or the academicians in Tbilisi, in Turkey, all around the world who are giving interest on these topics, we have two main guidelines. One is the confrontation literature, we need it, and the other one is the critical history. Within these two basics, we can have a better view of a Circassian's genocide studies, and we can remember what happened actually as a real photo 160 years ago. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Elbruz. Again, for a better future for humanity, we need to have all these grounded. So, Dr. Şuay, once again, we would like to hear your final words before we end up today's panel.
Thank you, Didem. Once more, thank you for Merab and Bruce for the last comments. I would like to say just only that we should be aware that what's going on in the world, which is quite similar what we our bigger families experienced in the many years ago. But the important point is that creating awareness and reproducing this time through history.
Thank you. So today we have talked about with Dr. Merab Chukhua, we have talked about the archive documents, and he present archive documents in Tbilisi State Military Archives, what they are telling us about the Circassian genocide, and also as a member of the state of Caucasus. As a Georgian, as a Georgian professor, he presented his views on what happened in back then. And Elbruz Aksoy, he has presented his studies about the narrative, the importance of narrative and the oral history among the diaspora. And Dr. Şuay Açıkalın mentioned how the narratives can be used in different political atmospheres in order to utilize them. And she mentioned about how disinformation can change the narrative's route. So on the 116th year of the 60th year anniversary of the Circassian genocide, we said we now all know how a genocide looks like from Gaza, and when it happens, it doesn't end there. It starts from there and goes through generations. Even 160 years later, we strongly, as the member of Circassian diaspora, live the effects of it in our daily lives. Therefore, countries should define their politics not for very at the moment, however, for the future as well, for the betterhood of humanity. So thank you for joining us this panel by Diplomacy Foundation, and we are also thanking them for hosting us today in today's in the 106th years anniversary of Circassian genocide. Thank you. I'm ending this panel here. I'm sending my regards.